If you're over 60, every bite you take, every vegetable you add to your plate matters more than ever, because at this stage of life, the food that once gave you strength could now be silently sabotaging your heart. That's not fear-mongering. That's the biological truth of aging. What if I told you that even the vegetables you've always trusted, the ones you've proudly called healthy, might actually be increasing your risk of high blood pressure, irregular heartbeats, and even heart failure? I'm not talking about junk food. I'm talking about the exact vegetables sitting in your fridge right now, the ones you've eaten your whole life without question. As a heart doctor with over 30 years of experience caring for older adults, I've seen it too many times. Seniors who walk into my office with the best intentions, eating salads daily, avoiding fried foods, drinking smoothies loaded with greens, yet they still land in the hospital with chest tightness, fatigue, or worse. Why? Because not every vegetable is heart-friendly after 60, especially when it interacts with your medication, your digestion, or your changing metabolism. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 9 vegetables that may be slowly damaging your heart and what you should eat instead. Please, stay with me. Your next meal could be the one that protects your heart or puts it at risk. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Canned sweet corn. The sweet taste that's quietly straining your heart. It's easy to think of corn as a safe, even nostalgic part of the American plate. For many of us over 60, sweet corn brings back warm memories, summer barbecues, buttery corn on the cob at county fairs, or a simple bowl of canned corn next to meatloaf at the dinner table. It feels familiar, wholesome, harmless. But the truth is, canned sweet corn may be quietly working against your heart in ways most seniors are never told. Let me explain why. When you open a can of sweet corn, you're not just getting kernels. You're also getting added salt, sugar, and preservatives, often hidden under labels that seem innocent. Canned corn is one of those middle ground foods. It's a vegetable, yes, but one that's been processed, stripped of some of its fiber, and packed in brine or syrup. For someone in their 30s or 40s, your body might handle that extra sodium or sugar just fine. But after 60, your body changes, quietly and significantly. As we age, our kidneys no longer filter sodium as efficiently, and our blood vessels lose their youthful flexibility. That means that even a modest amount of salt, like what's hidden in a cup of canned corn, can cause your body to retain water, increase your blood volume, and raise your blood pressure without you even realizing it. Over time, this silent strain leads to hypertrophy, thickening of the heart walls, stiffened arteries, and increased risk for heart failure. I think of Mr. Charles Whitaker, an 81-year-old veteran from Indiana, who came to see me complaining of fatigue, swelling in his ankles, and a strange heaviness in his chest after dinner. His blood pressure was high, despite being on 2 medications. He didn't smoke, walked every day, and hadn't touched fast food in years. But when we reviewed his food journal, the answer was right there in plain sight. Every night, he'd been eating a full can of sweet corn as part of his dinner. "I thought I was doing good, Doc," he told me. "It's just corn. I even drained the liquid." But here's what most people don't know. Draining the liquid isn't enough. The sodium has already soaked into the kernels. A full can of sweet corn can easily contain over 600 milliliters of sodium, and in some brands, even added sugars disguised as corn syrup solids or evaporated cane juice. For an aging heart already trying to keep pace, this daily habit was adding unnecessary strain. After we switched Charles to steamed fresh corn or frozen corn with no added salt, and we cut his portions in half, his blood pressure started coming down within 2 weeks. The swelling in his legs improved. He told me, I didn't know corn could be that dangerous. I figured if it grew from the ground, it was safe. That's the trap, isn't it? We've grown up trusting certain foods, especially vegetables, without realizing that age changes everything. How we digest, how we filter, how we respond. Canned sweet corn may still have a place on your plate, but it must be approached with awareness, portion control, and clear intention. Otherwise, what once was comfort food becomes a quiet contributor to heart strain, water retention, and increased cardiovascular risk. So next time you reach for that can in the pantry, ask yourself, is this feeding my heart or quietly stressing it? Because sometimes what looks the most innocent is what slips under the radar and causes the most damage. And if something as sweet and simple as corn can do that, what about the foods that don't just stress your heart, but actually inflame it meal after meal without you knowing? Let's talk about that next. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. French fries, America's favorite side dish that's quietly damaging senior hearts. For most Americans, French fries aren't just food, they're a tradition. They show up at backyard cookouts, drive-thrus after Sunday service, and even next to turkey sandwiches at the local diner. They're golden, crispy, comforting, and for many seniors, they feel like a small indulgence, one that surely can't do too much harm. But I need to tell you something honestly, with care. French fries are not harmless for your heart, especially after 60. In fact, they may be quietly setting you up for serious cardiovascular trouble. Here's what I've seen after treating heart patients for over 3 decades. As we age, our arteries naturally begin to stiffen, blood pressure tends to rise, and metabolism slows down. The foods that once gave us quick energy now linger longer in the system. And French fries, despite being made from potatoes, a vegetable, are one of the most inflammatory, heart-straining foods you can put on your plate. Why? First, they're deep fried, often in low-quality oils that are high in trans fats and omega-6 fatty acids. These oils promote chronic inflammation, a hidden process that damages the lining of your blood vessels and makes plaque more likely to build up. That's the beginning of atherosclerosis, the narrowing of arteries that leads to heart attacks, strokes, and congestive heart failure. Second, the salt content in fries is alarming. A single serving can pack anywhere from 300 to 800 milligrams of sodium, depending on how they're seasoned. And most of us don't eat just one serving. We nibble a few more off someone else's plate or finish the leftover ones in the bag. That sodium forces your body to hold on to water, raises your blood pressure, and increases the workload on your heart. A dangerous combination for an older body that's already dealing with less efficient kidney function and reduced cardiac output. I'll never forget Mrs. Gloria Henderson, a vibrant 76-year-old retired librarian from Ohio. She came into my office with swelling in her ankles, rising blood pressure, and shortness of breath during her walks. She didn't drink, didn't smoke, and took her medications faithfully. But when I gently asked about her diet, she laughed and said, "Well, Doc, I don't eat much junk, just my fries twice a week at the diner. Been doing that for years." What Gloria didn't realize was that those fries, though small in portion, were a consistent source of trans fats and salt, keeping her in a constant state of inflammation and fluid retention. Her heart was working harder to push blood through stiffened vessels, and her kidneys were struggling to clear the excess sodium. After we removed fries from her diet, replacing them with roasted sweet potato wedges baked in olive oil and herbs, her symptoms began to ease within weeks. Her ankles slimmed down, Her blood pressure came down 10 points and her breathing improved. I didn't think something so little could be so powerful, she told me. And she was right. It's the little habits, the ones we repeat without thinking, that often have the biggest impact on our health in the long run. Here's the bottom line. French fries are not just empty calories. They're a cardiovascular hazard, especially for seniors. They offer almost no real nutrition while delivering a punch of salt, fat, and inflammation that your aging heart can't afford to absorb repeatedly. And while one serving may not send you to the hospital, years of quiet damage build up until one day, something small like walking to the mailbox leaves you gasping for breath. The good news? You don't have to give up flavor or comfort. Roasted vegetables, seasoned with garlic, rosemary, or paprika, can offer the same satisfaction without the health risk. It's not about deprivation. It's about choosing foods that love your heart back. And if a crispy golden fry can do this much harm without warning. What happens when the heat comes not from oil, but from spice, the kind that stirs up your taste buds and also your blood pressure? Let's talk about that next. 3. Red chili peppers, the fiery ingredient that's quietly fueling your heart's downfall. Spice adds excitement to food. For many of us in our golden years, a little heat brings back memories of bold meals shared with friends and family, Tex-Mex on Friday nights, gumbo simmering on the stove, or that treasured hot sauce passed down through generations. Red chili peppers, cayenne, jalapenos, they feel alive and they bring life to our plates. But if you're over 60, what you don't realize is that this fiery friend may be quietly stressing your heart every single day. Red chili peppers contain a powerful compound called capsaicin, the very substance that makes them taste hot. And while capsaicin does have some health benefits like relieving mild pain or boosting metabolism, it also stimulates something in your body called the sympathetic nervous system. That's the system responsible for your fight or flight response. When it's triggered, your body releases adrenaline, your heart rate increases, your blood vessels tighten, and your blood pressure rises. In a healthy 25-year-old, this might be nothing more than a mild flush or a racing pulse that settles quickly. But in a 70, 80, or 90-year-old body, those changes can be dangerous. As we age, the heart loses some of its flexibility. Arteries become stiffer, and the heart muscle may have already endured years of wear, whether from high blood pressure, cholesterol buildup, diabetes, or even just time itself. A sudden surge in heart rate or pressure, especially right after a spicy meal, can lead to palpitations, arrhythmias, or even acute heart stress in someone with an already compromised cardiovascular system. I think of Mr. Bill Martinez, a 74-year-old retired postal worker from New Mexico who came to see me after experiencing episodes of lightheadedness and fluttering in his chest. He was a proud man, fit, sharp-minded, and full of life. When I asked about his diet, he grinned and said, "Doc, I like my food like I like my truck, hot and fast. I eat chili with everything." He was adding cayenne to his eggs, jalapenos in his sandwiches, and dousing nearly every dinner in hot sauce. Bill's EKG showed occasional premature beats, nothing yet dangerous but enough to wear on his heart if left unaddressed. We did a 48-hour Holter monitor, and the results told the story. Every time he had a spicy meal, his heart rhythm spiked, his blood pressure crept up, and his heart's recovery slowed. That zest for life in his food was lighting a fire in his chest, one that wasn't as harmless as he thought. We didn't take flavor away from Bill. Instead, we worked together to cool down the fire. He swapped his hot sauces for flavor-packed herbs like smoked paprika, garlic, rosemary, and a touch of lemon zest. He started using turmeric and cumin for depth instead of heat. Within a month, his palpitations were gone and his blood pressure returned to a manageable range. I didn't know food could mess with my heart rhythm, he told me. I just thought I liked spice. Now I know. I need to eat with respect for what my body's telling me. The lesson here is not about removing joy from your plate. It's about protecting the very heart that lets you enjoy your life in the first place. If your meals consistently make your chest feel tight, your face flush, or your heart beat harder than it should, that's not flavor. That's a warning. You can still enjoy bold meals, but bold doesn't have to mean spicy. As we age, we need to season with wisdom, not just with heat. Our hearts are more sensitive than they used to be, and we must respect that, not out of fear, but out of care. Because if a sprinkle of cayenne can stir your heart into alarm, what happens when a natural remedy, something praised for heart health, starts thinning your blood too much? Let's talk about that next. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Raw garlic. When nature's medicine turns against your heart. For generations, garlic has been celebrated as a healing food. Whether you remember your grandmother crushing cloves into chicken soup or sipping warm garlic tea during a cold, the belief in garlic's power runs deep in American households, especially among seniors who value natural remedies over pills. And in many ways, that trust isn't misplaced. Garlic contains compounds like allicin, which may help lower cholesterol, improve circulation, and even support immunity. But here's the hard truth. After age 60, especially when you're on heart medications, raw garlic can quietly shift from helpful to harmful. As a physician who has worked with older adults for over 30 years, I've seen this time and again. Well-intentioned patients trying to support their heart naturally, only to unknowingly tip their body into imbalance. That's exactly what happened with Ms. Helen Davis, a 77-year-old retired nurse from Virginia. Helen had always believed in the power of food as medicine. She walked every morning, stayed away from processed foods, and took a low-dose aspirin daily as prescribed by her cardiologist. But over the course of a few months, she began experiencing dizzy spells, mostly in the morning, and one day, she fainted while folding laundry. When she came to my clinic, we ran a full set of labs. Her blood pressure was lower than expected, and her INR levels, a blood test that measures clotting time, were higher than normal. In short, her blood was too thin. After ruling out changes in medication, I asked about supplements and home remedies. That's when she said, "Oh, I've been eating 2 raw garlic cloves every morning. I've done it for years. My mother swore it kept her heart strong." What Helen didn't know, and what so many seniors don't realize, is that raw garlic has strong blood-thinning effects. When combined with common medications like aspirin, Plavix, or warfarin, garlic doesn't just double the effect, it can dangerously amplify it. In older adults, where liver and kidney function slows and blood vessels become more fragile, this can lead to unnoticed internal bleeding, dangerously low blood pressure, or even hemorrhagic stroke. Unlike pharmaceutical drugs, food doesn't come with a warning label. Garlic doesn't tell you when it's interacting with your medication, but the body responds all the same. In Helen's case, her fainting spell was her heart's way of waving a red flag saying something's off. Thankfully, we caught it early. We adjusted her diet, asked her to stop eating garlic raw, and reintroduced it in small amounts, roasted and cooked, where the allicin becomes milder and less likely to thin the blood dramatically. Within weeks, her blood pressure stabilized and the dizzy spells disappeared. What I want seniors to understand is this: natural doesn't always mean safe, especially not when you're living with a heart condition or taking medication. aging changes how your body metabolizes food and medicine. What once gave you strength at 40 could put you at risk at 75. And garlic, while powerful, needs to be handled with the same caution you'd give to any drug. This doesn't mean giving up your traditions. It means respecting the new reality of your body and adapting those traditions with wisdom. If you love garlic, keep it in your life, but in cooked form, and always let your doctor know if you're using it regularly. Health after 60 isn't about cutting things out. It's about understanding how everything works together: your food, your medications, your heart. Because if a simple clove of garlic can silently tip your body into crisis, what happens when a raw vegetable, praised for its freshness and vitality, carries bacteria that your aging immune system can no longer fight off? That's what we'll explore next. Don't miss it. 5. Raw sprouts, the innocent crunch that could break a senior's heart. They look fresh, vibrant, and full of life. Tiny threads of green promise tucked neatly on top of a salad or wrapped inside a veggie sandwich at your favorite cafe. For health-conscious seniors, raw sprouts like alfalfa, clover, mung bean, or radish seem like a smart, heart-friendly choice. They're light, low in calories, and often labeled as superfoods. But beneath that crisp, innocent crunch lies a hidden danger, especially for those over the age of 60. Raw sprouts can be a serious threat to your heart, not because of their nutrients, but because of the bacteria they often carry. Here's the reality: sprouts grow in warm, moist conditions, the same conditions that encourage the growth of harmful bacteria like E. coli, Salmonella, and Listeria. For younger people with strong immune systems, consuming contaminated sprouts might lead to a day or two of an upset stomach. But for older adults, especially those with underlying heart issues or weakened immune defenses, that same infection can escalate quickly, resulting in serious complications like sepsis, dehydration, or even a rare but life-threatening condition called infective endocarditis, an infection of the inner lining of the heart. I'll never forget George Stillman, a 69-year-old retired firefighter from Minnesota, who came to my clinic with what first seemed like the flu: fever, fatigue, and confusion. George had always prided himself on his health. After a heart bypass surgery 5 years earlier, he completely overhauled his diet, walked every morning, and hadn't touched red meat in years. "I eat clean," he told me, "mostly veggies, salads every day." But when his symptoms rapidly worsened and his heart rate became erratic, we ran tests. The diagnosis stunned him: infective endocarditis caused by Listeria bacteria traced back to raw alfalfa sprouts he had eaten in a sandwich the week before. The infection had reached his bloodstream and begun attacking his heart. George needed weeks of IV antibiotics and was hospitalized for nearly a month. It wasn't a heart attack or clogged arteries. It was a handful of sprouts, eaten in good faith, that had nearly undone all his years of careful heart care. The truth is, as we get older, our immune system doesn't respond like it used to. The gut lining becomes more permeable, healing slows, and our natural defenses weaken. If you've had a valve replacement, pacemaker, or previous heart infection, the risk is even greater. These are things you don't see on a food label, but they matter deeply when you're navigating life after 60. So, what should you do? Does this mean giving up sprouts forever? Not necessarily, but it does mean cooking them. Lightly steaming or sautéing sprouts can kill harmful bacteria while still preserving much of their flavor and texture. If you enjoy the taste, toss them into a stir fry or add them at the end of a soup or broth. And if you're dining out or at a salad bar, it's okay to ask if the sprouts are cooked, or better yet, ask for the dish without them. We must move beyond the idea that fresh, always means safe. Because as we age, the rules change. The same body that used to shake off food poisoning in a day can now end up in the ER from a single contaminated bite. And just like that, a well-meaning salad becomes a silent danger. George made a full recovery, but he told me something I'll never forget. Doc, I spent 30 years running into burning buildings without fear. Never thought I'd almost lose my life to a sandwich. Let that sink in. It's not about fear, it's about awareness. At this stage of life, you deserve to eat in a way that truly protects you. You've earned the right to safety, to wisdom, to meals that nourish instead of risk. And if something as tiny and delicate as a sprout can deliver such a powerful blow to your heart's defenses, what about the vegetables that aren't inherently dangerous, but become risky when they interfere with your medications right under your nose? That's what we'll uncover next. Don't go anywhere. 6. When healthy vegetables turn harmful, the hidden danger of food and medication interactions. We've been told our whole lives that eating vegetables is good for us, and that's mostly true. But after age 60, that advice comes with an asterisk. What no one tells you, especially as you begin taking heart medications, is that even the healthiest vegetables can interfere with the very drugs keeping you alive. This is the part of nutrition that's not written on food labels or explained in commercials, yet it affects millions of older Americans every day. As we get older, our bodies process food and medication differently. Our liver, which helps break down medications, slows its function with age. Our kidneys don't flush out excess minerals as efficiently. Even our stomach acid changes, altering how nutrients and drugs are absorbed. Now imagine throwing a handful of kale, a grapefruit, or some Brussels sprouts into that delicate mix without realizing what it might do. Sounds harmless, right? But for your aging heart, it could quietly spell trouble. Let me tell you about Diane Foster, a 73-year-old retired school teacher from Pennsylvania. Diane had a gentle spirit and a strong will. She kept her garden, walked daily, and followed what she believed was a clean, heart-healthy diet. She was managing atrial fibrillation and mild heart failure with medications including a beta blocker, an ACE inhibitor, and a low-dose blood thinner. Everything was under control until it wasn't. She came to my clinic one afternoon complaining of dizziness, weakness, and brain fog. Her heart rate was lower than expected, and her blood pressure had dropped to borderline dangerous levels. At first, we suspected her medications needed adjusting, but then we reviewed her new diet: grapefruit juice every morning, large servings of broccoli, and Brussels sprouts with lunch and dinner. She had read online that these were heart-smart superfoods, and they are, for some people, but not for those on certain heart medications. Here's what was happening inside Diane's body. Grapefruit contains compounds that inhibit an enzyme in the liver called CYP3A4. This enzyme helps metabolize many medications, including some used for blood pressure and heart rhythm. By blocking this enzyme, grapefruit caused her medications to stay in her system longer and build up to potentially toxic levels. At the same time, vegetables like broccoli, kale, and Brussels sprouts, though full of vitamins, are high in vitamin K, which can interfere with blood thinners, making it harder to maintain safe clotting levels. Diane's well-meaning meals were essentially fighting her prescriptions at every turn. We made some simple but critical changes. She reduced her grapefruit intake to once a week and replaced it with orange slices. We adjusted her portions of cruciferous vegetables and spaced them out throughout the week. She now keeps her vitamin K intake consistent, not eliminated, just balanced. Within a couple of weeks, her symptoms disappeared and her energy returned. The takeaway: even the best vegetables can become the wrong choice when mixed carelessly with medication. It's not about cutting out healthy foods. It's about making them work in harmony with your body and your prescriptions. What many seniors don't realize is that it's the interaction, not the food itself, that causes problems. If you're on heart medication, talk to your doctor or pharmacist before making big changes to your diet. Bring a list of the foods you're eating regularly, especially green vegetables, citrus fruits, and herbal teas. These conversations could mean the difference between stability and a medical emergency. You've worked hard to care for your heart. Don't let a hidden food-drug interaction undo that progress. And if your food and medications can clash so silently and dangerously, what happens when the very vegetables you trust start pressing physically against your lungs and heart from the inside out? That's exactly what we're going to uncover next. Stay with me. 7. Raw cabbage, the healthy vegetable that's quietly pressuring your heart and lungs. At first glance, raw cabbage seems like the poster child for clean eating. It's inexpensive, low in calories, packed with fiber, and shows up in countless meals. Coleslaw at a summer picnic, shredded over tacos, or tossed into a superfood salad. For many older adults trying to eat healthier, raw cabbage feels like a smart choice. But what most seniors don't realize is that this crisp, crunchy vegetable may be quietly causing your heart and lungs to struggle, especially if you're over 60. As we age, our digestive system begins to slow. The muscles that move food through the gut lose tone. The stomach empties more slowly. Gas doesn't pass through as easily. These changes are subtle at first, but over time, they can become significant, especially when you're eating raw, cruciferous vegetables like cabbage. What makes raw cabbage so problematic isn't that it's unhealthy in the traditional sense, but that it's difficult for the aging digestive system to process without creating bloating, gas, and pressure. Let me explain why this matters. Cabbage is high in a group of fermentable carbohydrates known as FODMAPs, compounds that ferment in the gut and produce gas. In a younger person with a fast-moving digestive system, this is often just a passing discomfort. But in an older adult with a slower gut, that gas can build up and cause bloating so severe it pushes up against the diaphragm, reducing lung capacity and placing literal pressure on the heart. It's not just uncomfortable, it can interfere with your breathing, your ability to sleep, and in some cases, your heart's ability to pump effectively. I think of Mr. Leonard Briggs, a 75-year-old retired truck driver from Missouri who came to my office complaining of tightness in his chest and shortness of breath after meals. He was convinced something was wrong with his lungs, or worse, his heart. We ran all the usual tests, EKG, chest x-ray, blood work. Everything came back stable, but his symptoms continued. Finally, we sat down and walked through his daily routine. That's when he mentioned his pride in eating better, specifically his new habit of making a large raw cabbage salad every afternoon. I slice it up, toss it with vinegar and olive oil, and eat it with a sandwich, he said proudly. That salad, though well-intentioned, was the culprit. The bloating it caused was so significant that it was putting pressure on his diaphragm and limiting his lung expansion, mimicking the symptoms of a cardiac event. For someone like Leonard, who also had mild diastolic dysfunction, a condition where the heart has trouble relaxing between beats, this added pressure was more than uncomfortable. It was dangerous. We didn't tell Leonard to give up cabbage completely. We simply asked him to lightly steam or sauté it instead. Cooking breaks down the tough fibers and reduces the FODMAP content, making it far easier to digest. Within a week, his symptoms improved dramatically. "Doc, I didn't know food could literally push against my lungs," he told me. "Now I can eat and breathe after lunch." This is a powerful reminder that healthy food must be matched to the current state of your body. What your body could tolerate at 30 may overwhelm it at 70. Raw vegetables can still be a part of your diet, but they need to be prepared in a way that respects your changing digestion. Don't ignore that fullness in your belly or that breathlessness after meals. Those are your body's quiet signals asking for a change. And if a bowl of raw cabbage can create that much physical pressure inside your body, what about the vegetables that seem healthy but come in a can soaked in salt, silently spiking your blood pressure every single day? Let's take a closer look at that next. You won't want to miss it. 8. Canned vegetables, the healthy food sneaking salt into your heart. For many older Americans, canned vegetables have been a trusted staple for decades. They line pantry shelves from coast to coast, offering a sense of convenience, affordability, and even nostalgia. Whether it's green beans with a Sunday roast, canned peas in a casserole, or carrots served at a church potluck, these foods feel like safe, simple nutrition. But what many seniors don't realize is that canned vegetables often come with a hidden ingredient that's slowly, silently straining the heart: sodium. As a physician specializing in senior heart health, I've seen too many patients who believe they're eating smart simply because they're eating vegetables. But when those vegetables come from a can, they're often soaked in salty brine, preserving the shelf life, but at the cost of your cardiovascular system. That sodium might not taste overwhelming, but make no mistake, it builds up meal after meal, and it can do real damage. Let's look at what happens inside your body. After age 60, your kidneys no longer filter sodium as efficiently as they used to. At the same time, blood vessels become less elastic, effery, and more prone to stiffness. When you consume too much salt, your body retains water to balance it out. That retained fluid increases blood volume, causing your blood pressure to rise. And when that pressure remains elevated over time, your heart has to work harder to pump against the resistance. The result? Hypertension, congestive heart failure, and increased risk of stroke, all of which can progress without warning until it's too late. One patient who still lingers in my mind is Mr. Roy Thompson, an 83-year-old widower living independently in rural Georgia. Roy was proud of how he took care of himself. He didn't eat out, didn't smoke, and never touched processed junk food. "I keep it simple, Doc," he said. "I open a can of green beans or carrots with every dinner. Been doing that for years." But Roy's blood pressure was stubbornly high, despite being on 2 medications. He had swelling in his ankles and occasional shortness of breath after climbing his porch steps. We tried adjusting his prescriptions, but nothing changed. That's when I asked him to bring in a few of the labels from his pantry. And there it was. Each can of vegetables he was eating contained over 500 milliliters of sodium per serving, and Roy was eating the whole can. That meant he was unknowingly consuming more than 1,000 milliliters from vegetables without counting anything else from the rest of his meals. We made 2 simple changes. Roy switched to no salt added versions of his favorite vegetables, and he started rinsing them under cold water before cooking to wash away excess sodium. We also introduced more fresh or frozen vegetables into his rotation. Within 6 weeks, his blood pressure dropped noticeably. The swelling in his legs improved, and we were even able to reduce one of his medications. "Doc," he told me, "I really thought I was doing everything right. I didn't know the salt was hiding in my vegetables." Roy's story is not uncommon. In fact, many seniors are doing their best, but they're being misled by food packaging and lifelong habits. Canned vegetables are often marketed as wholesome, but unless you're reading the label closely, you're likely consuming far more sodium than your heart can handle. Here's what I tell every patient over 60. Don't just assume a food is healthy because it's a vegetable. Look deeper. Check the sodium content. Choose low sodium or no salt added options whenever possible. And when in doubt, rinse canned vegetables thoroughly before eating. Better yet, stock your freezer with plain frozen veggies, which often contain no added salt and preserve more nutrients. they're just as convenient and far kinder to your heart. You've spent your life working hard, raising families, contributing to your communities. You deserve to enjoy your meals without putting your heart at risk. Small changes make a big difference. And if salt can be hidden so easily in a can of green beans, quietly driving up your blood pressure, what happens when you eat too much of even the right vegetables, overloading your heart and kidneys in ways you never expected? That's exactly what we'll uncover next. Stay tuned. 9. Overdoing heart-healthy veggies. When too much of a good thing becomes a silent threat. We all grew up hearing it, and eat your vegetables. They're good for you. And that wisdom still holds true. But after the age of 60, even the healthiest vegetables can become harmful if they're eaten in excess or without regard to your medications, digestion, and overall heart function. This is something I've seen many times in my years of caring for older adults, seniors who truly want to do the right thing, but who unknowingly overwhelm their bodies with too much of a good thing. Let me share the story of Mr. Franklin Ellis, a 79-year-old retired piano teacher from Pennsylvania. After surviving a mild heart attack, Franklin became determined to turn his health around. He embraced a plant-based diet, said goodbye to processed foods, and filled his plate with nothing but what he believed were heart-friendly superfoods: kale, spinach, beets, and sweet potatoes every single day. When he came to see me a few months later, Franklin looked proud, but he also looked tired. He reported muscle cramps, occasional weakness, and lightheadedness when standing up. His blood pressure readings were lower than ideal. We ran his labs and quickly saw the issue. His potassium levels were elevated and his kidney function was slightly strained. On top of that, his INR, a measure of how well his blood was clotting, was fluctuating. The culprit? His diet. Beets and spinach, while packed with antioxidants, are high in oxalates. These compounds, when consumed in large amounts, can increase the risk of kidney stones and reduce the kidney's ability to effectively filter waste, especially in older adults whose renal function has already begun to slow naturally with age. Kale and spinach are also rich in vitamin K, which, when inconsistent in the diet, can disrupt the balance of blood-thinning medications like warfarin. Sweet potatoes, though an excellent source of fiber and beta-carotene, are high in potassium, which can cause real trouble if you're also on ACE inhibitors or potassium-sparing diuretics. In Franklin's case, his heart wasn't struggling from bad choices. It was struggling from too much of the good stuff. We worked together to adjust his portions, rotate his greens, and introduce gentler, lower potassium vegetables like zucchini, green beans, and cooked carrots. We also built a more balanced weekly meal plan that still honored his desire to eat clean, but without overwhelming his body. The results? Within 4 weeks, his potassium levels returned to normal. His energy came back. His blood pressure stabilized. "I thought I was doing everything right," he told me. "Turns out I just needed to eat smarter, not harder." And that's the key message for all seniors. Your body changes with age. What nourished you at 40 can burden you at 75. After 60, your metabolism slows, your kidneys work harder to filter excess nutrients, and your heart needs balance, not extremes. You don't have to abandon healthy foods, but you do need to understand how much, how often, and in what combination they should appear on your plate. Vegetables are not dangerous, but context matters. Moderation matters. You don't need to cut out spinach or sweet potatoes entirely, but you do need to know how they interact with your medications and overall health. So if you've been loading up on leafy greens, roasting tray after tray of root veggies, or drinking beet smoothies every morning, pause. Ask yourself, is this helping my body work with me, or is it too much for my heart and kidneys to manage? Because even the healthiest habits, when taken to extremes, can backfire quietly. And too often, that damage isn't felt until it's already done. Now that we've uncovered the risks of overdoing heart-healthy vegetables, you may be wondering, so what should I eat? What vegetables actually support the aging heart gently and consistently without overwhelming my system? That's exactly what we'll explore in the next section. Instead, eat these vegetables that truly support your heart after 60. Rather than blindly restricting foods, it's time to eat with wisdom, intention, and clarity. Don't miss what comes next. 10. Instead, eat these vegetables that truly support your heart after 60. After decades of loyal service, beating more than 2 billion times without rest, your heart has earned the right to be treated with deep care, respect, and wisdom. And now, in this stage of life, when your body processes food and medications differently, your heart doesn't need extremes. It doesn't need fads or miracle cures. It needs consistency, gentle nourishment, and foods that support its work, not ones that make it work harder. That's where smart vegetable choices come in, not based on trends, but based on real science, clinical experience, and the lived realities of older adults. Let me tell you about Mrs. Ruby Jennings, an 83-year-old retired nurse from Georgia. Ruby came to see me feeling worn down, not sick, not in pain, just tired. Her blood pressure was creeping up, her energy had dipped, and she told me, "Doc, I don't want to wait for something bad to happen. I want to get ahead of it." She wasn't on any major medications yet, and we both wanted to keep it that way as long as possible. So we built her meals around vegetables that would gently support her heart without interfering with her digestion, her kidneys, or any future medication she might need. We started with steamed green beans and lightly cooked broccoli, two vegetables that are low in sodium, rich in fiber, and contain antioxidants that help reduce arterial inflammation, a root cause of many heart problems. Cooking them lightly made them easier to digest while preserving their nutritional value. For someone over 60, this matters greatly. The goal is not just to eat healthy food, but to eat food your body can actually use and process efficiently. Next, we added cooked carrots. Not only are they comforting and slightly sweet, which helps reduce cravings for processed snacks, but they're also high in beta-carotene, a nutrient linked to better blood vessel health and lower risk of heart disease. When roasted or boiled gently, carrots provide a soothing, heart-friendly side that feels like home without being heavy. We introduced zucchini, sautéed in olive oil with herbs like rosemary and thyme. Zucchini is hydrating, low in calories, and easy on the digestive tract. It's also low in oxalates and potassium, which makes it a safe choice for seniors concerned about kidney strain or those on potassium-sensitive medications. Sweet potatoes made their way onto Ruby's plate too, but with moderation and intention. Rich in fiber and antioxidants like vitamin A, they provide steady, complex carbohydrates that help balance blood sugar, so long as they're baked or boiled instead of fried or candied. Portion control here is key, especially if you're managing weight or glucose levels. One of the most impactful additions was cooked tomatoes. While raw tomatoes are healthy, cooking them releases lycopene, a powerful antioxidant shown to improve endothelial function, which helps blood vessels stay flexible and responsive. Ruby loved making homemade tomato soup with a drizzle of olive oil, a simple dish that nourished her heart and gave her a sense of comfort and peace. Finally, we reintroduced kale, but carefully. Rather than eating it raw, which can interfere with blood thinners and cause bloating, we lightly sautéed it and kept her portions consistent. This gave her the benefits of fiber, vitamins A and C, and plant-based nutrients without the digestive strain or medication conflict. 3 months after starting her new approach, Ruby returned with a smile on her face and a spring in her step. "I feel light, Doc," she said. "Not just in my body, but in my mind, too. I finally feel like I'm working with my body, not against it." That's the power of eating with wisdom, not restriction, not fear, but clarity. When you choose the right vegetables, in the right form, and in the right amounts, you're not just filling your plate, you're building a foundation for better circulation, more stable blood pressure, clearer thinking, and a more comfortable, active life. And perhaps most importantly, you're reclaiming control. Because aging doesn't mean surrendering your health. It means relearning your body and adjusting with grace. You don't need to give up flavor, joy, or tradition. You just need to know which foods truly love your heart back. So now that you know what vegetables support your heart, your digestion, and your medications, hey, how do you bring it all together, your food, your routine, your mindset, to create a daily life that feels vibrant, steady, and fully your own? That's exactly what we'll explore in our final reflection. Stay with me. You're going to want to hear this. Your heart still has time, and so do you. If you've made it this far, then you're already doing something powerful. You're listening, not just to a doctor or a video or a new piece of advice, but to your body. And that, more than anything else, is the foundation of good health after 60. Because the truth is, your body is still listening too. Your heart is still beating. Your lungs are still expanding. Your brain is still learning. And your next decision about what to eat, how to move, what to say no to, and what to welcome can still change the course of your health. It's never too late. Not at 60, not at 70, not even at 90. Over the years, I've watched countless older adults come into my clinic feeling defeated. Some had lost spouses, some had battled disease, some had simply grown tired of trying. They'd say, "Doc, I've made too many mistakes," or "I didn't take care of myself the way I should have." But here's what I always tell them: regret is not a diagnosis, and your future doesn't need to look like your past. Healing, especially at this stage of life, doesn't always come in the form of a cure. It comes in the form of small, wise, daily decisions. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming more intentional. It's about eating with care, moving with purpose, resting with peace, and living with awareness. You've carried the weight of a family, a career, a life full of both joy and hardship. You've survived change, disappointment, and uncertainty. You are resilient. And now, the most meaningful act of resilience might just be choosing to care for your body as kindly as you've cared for others. Your meals don't need to be complicated, but they do need to be thoughtful. Your habits don't need to be extreme, but they should be consistent. And your heart doesn't need more pressure. It needs partnership. So start where you are. Swap one ingredient. Ask one question. Read one label. Cook one meal with intention. And don't do it out of fear. Do it out of respect. Because your body deserves to be honored. It has carried you through a lifetime of stories, and it still has time left to write more. This next chapter of your life can be strong, clear, and vibrant. Not because it's free of challenges, but because it's full of wisdom. Your heart has given so much to others. Now, it's time to give something back to it. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, just remember this. Every wise choice you make today is a gift to the version of you who wakes up tomorrow. Let's take care of that person. One steady, thoughtful, loving bite at a time. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.